Well, this one's gonna make some people mad. Well, welcome to this video where I'm gonna talk about Vestal, my favorite hero. Smile. But yeah, Vestal's pretty much agreed on by like out of really good players that she's the worst hero in the game. And I'm gonna explain why in this video. Just like go over like a few reasons and why. Like the main reason why she's like considered the worst hero. And yeah, let's get right into it. First off, let's just talk about her stats. Her stats are very, like, below average, I would say. Her defensive stats are just okay, like 24 HP, 0 dodge is like, yeah, sure, it's fine. For a backline, it's actually pretty high. There's really only, like, Arbalest who has, like, better defensive stats in terms of, like, HP. But it's just nothing special, right? Like, if she can't, like, keep up with, like, Crusader, like, all of the, like, really high dodge heroes, like, usually she just is like, yeah, she's fine defensively. You wouldn't think of her as, like, really, really good defensively, right? Her offense is very bad. Her speed is just mid. Like 4 to 6 speed is like, yeah, you're not really like fast yet, but you're not really like slow either. You're just kind of like in that middle ground. And this is gonna get very important later. This speed stat, I will talk about that more. But for now, just know that it's just nothing special. You can compare it to like most other heroes, and it's just like, yeah, it's just fine. Her crit, not great. Her damage, obviously not great. 4 to 8 to 7 to 14 might look good, but you have to remember that like Judgment actually has like minus 25% damage, and you are obviously not using it in the front line. But yeah, her damage is just kind of like not all that. This is usually like 3 to 6 damage at base, and 3 to 6 damage at base is flagellant on hit damage, which is fantastic. Her resists are just nothing. Like she has 10% extra bleed resist, which is like, sure, I guess that's cool, but like it's nothing like uber special. It doesn't have like that high, like a really high blight threshold or like bleed threshold that other heroes have. Like Flagellant with his 50% bleed resist. So, but it is something. Movement is obviously not great. 1 forward, 1 back. It's like, yeah, nothing good. She can't like really recover easily. It's just kind of like, yeah, very mediocre. Overall stats are just not all that. I would just call them like pretty like average to below average. Like her bad speed is very not great. Her damage just isn't there. And yeah, like nothing special here, and obviously her stats are not gonna save her. Now, let's talk about skills. The most important one I want to talk about is Dazzling Light. This, you could argue, is the worst stun in the game. And the reason for that is the aforementioned, like, very bad speed. 4 to 6 speed is not it for a stunner. Like, every other stunner you think about, right? Like, if you go towards the stunners, you have, like, A-Bomb, who's much faster. Bounty Hunter, he's faster. Crusader's not faster, but he's the exception. Like, every other hero that has a stun is just much faster. Like, Houndmaster, Man-at-Arms isn't faster, but we'll get to, like how Man-at-Arms, Crusader are, like, the outliers, but we'll talk about those two in more detail and why their stuns are actually like slightly better. Occult the Spectator, I don't think I have to explain why their stuns are better. But it pretty much is like, yeah, like either, like if you want to like find a worse stunner, it's like, yup, Crusader Stunning Blow, because Crusader is obviously like the slowest hero in the game, so you can't like really fault him for that, and Man-at-Arms is like 1 speed slower. The difference between Vestal stun and like Dazzling Light and these two stuns is that Dazzling Light doesn't get any trinket support. Like, the only trinket support Dazzling Light has is specifically the Courtyard set. And finding that set is, like, impossible. Like, you can guarantee 1 trinket, but the second one, well, good luck. Like, maybe you'll find it, but most likely not until you do, like, Garden Guardian, and you have to do Countess for that. And Countess is not usually, like, a part of most runs, because you just kind of like beat the game before that, because Countess is kind of more difficult than the Darkest Dungeon. You have to be level 6, and the boss fight is like really difficult, right? So you never really get to Garden Guardian super often, and when you do, it's like very late game, and it's just like, you never get this hit reliably. Like, you can get like 1 part, sure, but the other one, well, good luck, I guess. And that really isn't reliable, whereas like Crusader and Man-at-Arms have like really accessible stun support. Like Crusader has both Paralyzer's Crest, which is just really good, like 20% stun skill chance, which is just no downside. Vestal doesn't get that. You can get like his non-occluded hilt if you really want to grind, but nobody does that, so I won't talk about it here. But you can get that plus 20% from Paralyzer's Crest on like Apprentice, like very easily. It costs like nothing from the Nomad Wagon either, so this is just really easy to access. Man-at-Arms kind of in the same boat. He isn't as accessible because you have to get Rampart Shield or like the All Unit Standard, both of which are like not as easy to get, I guess. But All Unit Standard you can kind of like force it from Croc, and sure, it's like a fine force from Croc, but I wouldn't personally go for it, but hey. But Rampart Shield is just easily accessible, and it gives like 30% stun skill chance, which is just absurd. Vestal doesn't get that at all. Of course, you just have that like extra bit of reach, but Rampart has like a lot of upside that Dazzling Light just doesn't. Right, it moves you forward, it gives you that knockback, and all of that stuff. So I wouldn't really argue if like Rampart is better or like Dazzling Light is better. You could obviously say like, yeah, Rampart is maybe slightly worse with a Trinket support, but I think that's just not a great take, because Rampart has so much like other upside over Dazzling Light. Like just the on-hit damage itself is just good enough, because Dazzling Light's on-hit damage is just non-existent. Like you could also argue that Crusader's Stunning Blow is worse because it only hits rank 1, rank 2, it's very slow, and yeah, fair. Like then Dazzling Light is like the second worst stun in the game. Sure. If you want to argue that it's the second worst stun in the game, go for it. But yeah, Dazzling Light is just not a great skill. It doesn't get that usual like benefit that most stuns get of like at least dealing some on-hit damage, because Dazzling Light's damage is like horrid. Like minus 75% on Vestal's already like very mediocre damage is just not great. Like this thing is horrid for like anything, because you usually want your stuns to take as much damage as possible, because then you get like a free turn plus that extra benefit of damage. And Dazzling Light just doesn't have that, because it deals like 1 to 2 damage. Like very often this thing will hit into like prot and do nothing. Like 0 damage. And then you just basically do nothing except like trade your turn 1 for 1, which is like, that's why like people tend to say that stuns are bad. But in most cases like that aren't Dazzling Light, any stun that like stuns something will do something extra. Like either move you around, stun an extra target, deal some on-hit damage to like give you like that small benefit. So stuns are always worth. And Dazzling Light just doesn't get that benefit either. Now I talked about Dazzling Light, let's talk about the other stuff. Judgment. This thing's dog shit. Like, I don't know why people tend to say that, oh yeah, this is like fine damage. It's pretty bad. Like, this thing does nothing. 85 accuracy on Vestal is like, sure, do you run accuracy on Vestal? Yeah, not really, right? Like, that's not really something you tend to do on her. Like, if you'd run accuracy on her, it's like a fine skill, but like, this deals shit tier damage. Like, if you want to argue that Judgment deals good damage, you are basically arguing that Flagellant deals good on-hit damage in the ruins. And that's just ridiculous. Like, come on now. Like, you can literally look at this, right? Like, do the math. I've done it before. Flagellant on-hit damage, like 3 to 6 base. That's just Judgment. That's Judgment damage. It's ridiculous. Like, huh? Like, the people that argue for, like, oh yeah, Judgment deals crazy damage is like, you are arguing for Flagellant on-hit damage in ruins. Like, what are you talking about? That shit is unacceptable. That's just not a good, like, that's not good damage at all. Like, obviously you can hit rank 3, rank 4, but in rank 3, rank 4 you have very dodgy enemies, and unless you run accuracy on Vestal, that just isn't a thing you are hitting, because you have that 85 base accuracy. And even if you are hitting, 3 to 6 damage on Apprentice is, like, horrid. Like, at that point, like, Flagellant is doing so much more damage. And even if you hit, like, backline without the bleed on, like, Reign of Sorrows, like, overall you do more damage. So it's kind of like, Judgment really isn't all there for damage, right? Like, both of these skills, you can't disagree, are like some of the worst in like that class. Like, Judgment's only benefit is that it can hit like every rank, and that means you have like some flexibility, and sometimes you could just gamble like a hit for like a 70% chance to like hit something, and just hope that yeah, you hit like 6 damage. But I'm sorry, if you want to deal 6 damage, like use any other hero. Like, none of these two skills are like any good compared to like any other hero. These two are not it. And now, let's talk about the main thing about Vestal, her healing. Her healing is consistent, and not really. Like, that's the most like common point you hear about Vestal, that like, oh, she has like consistent healing, and she really doesn't. Like, her healing is not consistent, in my opinion. Like, Divine Grace, like, you get pulled, horrid. You get like Divine Comfort, you get shuffled into rank 1, healing, gone. Like, most heroes also have this issue where like they get pulled, they lose their healing, but Vestal very often is like the only healer on the team, right? Because that's like her niche, right? You want to like have a Vestal as like your only healer, so the rest of the team can like focus on other stuff, and that's like what makes her good, because you have so much healing by herself that you can always like reliably like keep your team topped up with just one person healing, right? The issue with that is that solo healing is terrible in Darkest Dungeon. You never want to have like only one healer. And if you only have one healer with Vestal, for example, let's go through this, right? Like, any stun on Vestal, you lose all access to healing. You have nothing. 0. You can't heal anyone else. And if you aren't able to heal like another person with like some other hero, you run the risk of like someone having like dropping to death's door with the damage over time. And if they only have a sail field available, you have to just either retreat, which is horrible because you take a bunch of stress and most likely end your mission, or you have to like just gamble the death blow and like hope that you like don't die. And that's not a good play. And not to mention, if you run a solo healer, what does the solo healer do when he's dying? When he's on death's door with the damage over time? How do you get them off death's door? You don't. That's the issue. Because if Vestal drops to death's door ever with the damage over time, you either flee or you gamble. There's no other option. Because like, you can't heal them off, right? Because you are running a solo healer. That's like the entire point of Vestal. And that's why it's so risky. And if you get pulled, obviously like you lose all your healing suddenly. And then Vestal's just a sitting duck because you can't heal her most likely because you are running a solo healer. And it just isn't great. And that's why you never want to run a solo healer. And that's what makes Vestal's niche very bad. Because Vestal's niche of being the solo healer just isn't useful in 99% of dungeons. The only time when this is actually like a useful niche, and I will give her that, is in certain boss fights. For example, if you run like a triple repulse team, right? Like if you have like, for example, Miller or Baron boss fight, just the Baron boss fight. If you want to run like triple repulse, that's most likely like Highwayman, and a Man-at-Arms, because you don't want to run Highwayman in rank 1, because you can't put up duelist events there. So you have 3 people that can't heal at all. And then you need 1 person to like heal your entire team. And then Vestal is good. But the issue is that's very specific boss fights and not like the general dungeon, right? And unfortunately, very specific boss fights make up a much smaller percentage compared to like regular ass dungeons. Like you aren't spending 100 weeks just grinding out like bosses. That's not a thing. There's not 100 boss fights in the game where Vestal solo healing is good. And so you are most likely just playing normal dungeons, and for those, Vestal is just not good as a solo healer. And the reason why this is important, why solo healing being so bad is so important, is that whenever you bring like a secondary healer, very often you can just bring a cultist. Like that's the main reason why Vestal is so bad, is just because you can just bring a cultist. And a cultist just does so much more. It's ridiculous. Because let's go over his stuff, right? Like his stun is just better, like straight up. You can't argue that. There's zero argumentation to be made. He's faster, Handsome Abyss has much more crit, highest base chance, and it hits for actual damage. Like, you can't argue with that. And it has, like, some of the most absurd trigger support in the game. If you compare this to Dazzling Light, zero competition. No chance. If you see someone arguing Handsome Abyss is worse than Dazzling Light, crazy person. Because the stats just don't lie on this, right? And if you have a secondary healer, you can rely on that secondary healer to make up for like Occultist's very bad healing. When he like starts rolling for like ones or twos, it's like, sure, like you cry about it and you just have like someone else heal, right? And it's like fine. Because most likely, like most of the heroes in Darkest Dungeon are strong to the point where they can like solo heal teams, especially when you have food healing backing them up. And like a solid defensive game plan on top of that. Like you can just build teams and just run like PD solo healing and you'll be fine. Especially at Highlight. Like in Torches, maybe not. Maybe don't run PD solo healing there. It's a bit unreliable, but like you'll be fine. But like Real Reconstruction, like it sounds bad because 0 to 13, but you have to remember any heal that is 4 or more is basically equivalent to pressing Divine Grace. And you would say Divine Grace is like a good heal, right? And so like if a cultist rolls like anything that is 4 or higher, it's just much better, right? That just makes sense. And of course you have that unreliability, but you have that secondary healer for that exact reason, because you can just, like, if Occultist just rolls a 0, you don't care, you have a second healer. It's fine. And because Occultist is so good at preventing damage with his really, really strong stun, you can just, like, stun whatever's, like, threatening you. Like, if there's, like, a size 2 Brigand, you just stun him. Just stun him. What's he gonna do? Nothing. And then you just kill him. And that's kind of like why Vestal tends to be very bad, because when you have that secondary healer, it's just like, why wouldn't you just run Occultist? Like, he just offers a much, much better stun, and sure, you don't have that immediate burst damage or like that rank 4 reach with Judgment, but if you build your team correctly, you very rarely need Occultist to deal rank 4 damage, and even if you want him to deal rank 4 damage, you can still do that, because you have Woolen Hex, which effectively says you get that mark bonus from like another hero as your on-hit damage. And let's take, let's say Arbalest, for example, right? You have Arbalest on your team. Then obviously, like, if you run, like, Arbalest Vestal, it's just like, why wouldn't you just run Arbalest Occultist? Because, effectively, when you have, like, max level Arbalest, because it's just easier for numbers, because, like, her max stuff scales, and they're just, like, using the max level because it's easy to calculate. But then, effectively, Occultist dealing 7 to 14 damage to the backline. with Weakening Curse, because you just double like Arbalest damage with the mark, right? Like that's just simple. And I'm sorry, where's Vestal dealing 7 to 14 damage to rank 4? Like, she just isn't. Like, unless you run fucking damage Vestal, like damage Trinket on Vestal, which is just insane, because that's base Arbalest damage as well. Like, you are not running base Arbalest damage, come on now. Like, you have at least 1 damage Trinket on her because she doesn't need accuracy. So it's like, yeah. You always deal more damage with a Cultist if you have like any mark hero on the team, even if you're just hitting the front line with like Bounty Hunter. Like, if you just one-tap like a guy up front with like Bounty Hunter damage, like at max level, like 8 to 16 basically, that's good damage from a Cultist. And that's kind of like the issue with Vestal, where like, if you have that secondary healer, why wouldn't you just bring a Cultist? And even if you just say like, oh, but I don't have like a frontline slot, right? Or, oh, I want to dance. But then it's like, Arbalest exists. Right? Like, you don't get that stun, but if you're, like, dancing, like, most likely you'll be fine. Or if you really want to have the stuns and damage, Plague Doctor exists. Like, Arbalest is maybe, like, a bad example for that. She's much better for, like, straight-up healing, but if you just want, like, damage and stuns, and, like, a bit of healing, Plague Doctor does that. Like, you are not comparing, like, you are not seriously comparing Vestal damage to, like, Plague Grenade Noxious Blast. And you are not seriously comparing any stun to Blinding Gas. That isn't Hands on your list. Like, that's ridiculous. Ridiculous ass statement. And if you have any other healer, like Battlefield Medicine plus that other healer will most likely pull enough weight that you don't care about Vestal. Like, let's say, for example, you have a Crusader, right? Let's say you have a Crusader as like your own other healer, and you would be running like Crusader plus Vestal. Okay, let's take your healing output. You have like Battle Heal, which at like level 1, right? Like 2 to 3, and Vestal has like 4 to 5. So you heal like a total of like 6 to 8 per turn. Right? And if you bring Plague Doctor, you essentially only at 1 point, which is slightly lower. You heal like 3 to 4, right? So you lose like that 3 points of healing, basically. 3 effective points of healing. Unless you want to tell me that Plague Doctor with Blinding Gas cannot prevent 3 points of damage, you are insane. Like, that's not a thing. If you stun a single enemy, like, that's just net positive. Because, like, turn 1, you stun something with Vestal with Dazzling Light? Sure. Plague Doctor stuns 2. And most enemies deal more than 3 damage. Like, that's Bone Rebel tier damage. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you are just getting net positive if you just, like, just press Blinding Gas once. And that's not considering that Plague Grenade and Noxious Blast exist. Right? And that's not considering that you have damage over time that exists. Right? Like, you clear a single damage over time, like, even with just 1 point, this is Vestal tier healing. Like, you are healing, like, 4 points with this. That's just Vestal. Which is ridiculous. Like, it moves a bunch of threats. It's just, Vestal's healing isn't all that, like, compared to other heroes. And, like, you don't really need, like, if you don't solo heal with her, and you have, like, a secondary healer, like, there's most likely a hero that just does more, like, outside of the healing. And even in terms of healing, there's a few heroes that can just rival her. Like, obviously, I talked about Plague Doctor. Occultist on average is going to be better, but obviously he's unreliable, so I won't count him. Arbalest is better if you just have, like, any other healer, because it just, like, increases the healing by at least 1 point. And that just, like, basically means, like, even if you have, like, a 1-point heal, right? From, like, Antiquary, let's say. If you press Battlefield Bandage, you're essentially healing 2 to 3 by yourself, and you heal that extra, like, 1 extra point from, like, the other heal. So you have a 3 to 4 heal. That's 1 point worse than Divine Grace. Okay? And then you get into, like, the actually good healers, like Flagellant, and you just see, like, ah, yes, Reclaim, 4 points, 6 points at level 2, max level, 12 points. Let's look at Grace. Oh, what's that? 8 to 9, it heals less? That's crazy. But yeah, it's like, the only level where you can actually, like, argue that Vestal heals better is, like, exactly level 4. Actually, no, it's not level 4, it's level, like, 3. Because you heal, like, only 6. But you're just out-heal on level 2. Because, fuck Vestal, I guess. But yeah, like, Divine Grace compared to most other heals is just, like, yeah, it's, like, fine, but it's nothing special. Like, it's not that, like, absurd of a heal is the issue as well. On top of, like, not being able to solo heal, like, most other healers just heal more. Like, Flagellant, Occultist, and Arbalest, like, those 3 specifically, just kind of, like, just straight up heal more. Plague Doctor has, like, a high potential to heal more because you just kill, like, any single damage over time and you'll be fine. And Crusader has, like, much more flexible healing, right? Like, all of these healers have, like, some upside over Vestal, where they just, like, either heal more or they have like a much more like useful heal, I would say. And you could argue Divine Comfort, but I'm sorry, Distinguished isn't all that. Divine Comfort is not great. Because the way you die in Darkest Dungeons is like one hero gets focused, right? Like, because if you start like any fight at full HP, which you should be doing, at least like 75% HP, that should be possible, because you are stalling, aren't you? I love stalling. But if you are like starting fights at like 75 HP, the only thing that can really happen to you is that like one hero gets like focused, gets like multiple crits, and like falls over. Like you are very like, if you can notice this in like a lot of like really high level play from like anybody, like it doesn't really happen that like multiple heroes starts like dying at the same time. What happens is like one hero gets focused, and they take like multiple hits, and they like drop down. And very often it looks like the stress is very funny as well, because you can notice where like most heroes are like at 0 stress, and then there's that one hero that has like a bunch of stress. Because, and like that hero dropped to Death's Door, and he's just in misery. Because Darkest Dungeon does a thing where like they focus on like certain heroes more often, even just without mark. Like enemies with damage over time, or like any status effect, have like a higher bias towards certain enemies with low, or like certain heroes with lower resists, and stress enemies attack like heroes with like the highest stress more often. And that's why like healing like AoE is just kind of like not that useful, because like very often you don't care. Like sure, it heals a lot more like on 4 people. Like this heals like 16 to 20 HP, which is like, wow, that's great. Unfortunately, how much of that HP is actually meaningful, right? Like you really only care about like the lowest HP in your party, because that's like the threatened hero most likely. And if like your entire team is at low HP and you need to like pop like a huge heal on everybody, it's like you flee the fight. Like you are risking like your heroes there. Like, if everybody's sitting at, like, 5 HP, like, you don't care about pressing Divine Comfort. You are pressing the retreat button. You aren't pressing this. That's ridiculous. Like, you are risking your heroes. Like, what? You aren't staying in that. You're pressing the retreat button. Like, if your entire team starts dying, you are pressing the retreat button, you are leaving the mission. That's, like, not... You are not staying in fights with that. Like, come on. Unless you want to, like, gamble, but... Then you could just run Occultist. Like... This thing seems really good on paper, in like bad situations, but you know what's better in bad situations? Running away. Because that's much safer, because you just don't die. And you don't, like, you could just sit there and like hope that, yeah, oh yeah, 4 HP will save you. Like 5 HP will save you from Divine Comfort at max level. Sure. What does 5 HP out heal? Like, I don't think it even out heals Bone Rebel. Let me check this, actually. I don't actually know this. Does that out-heal Bone Rebel? I don't think it does. It does not heal Bone Rebel. Yeah, I hope I made my point. Why this healing is not meaningful. Like, it's not a meaningful amount. Because you just aren't out-healing like a single attack. And if you aren't out-healing one single attack, it's worse than a stun. And at that point, just press the stun. Because then you are like playing around the crit. And that's the other thing about like Vestal, because often like I see people run Vestal in like a very tanky team where like you just kind of sit there, you take like a bunch of hits, and you like try to out-heal the damage with like defensive buffs. And those teams have one very glaring issue with Vestal, and that's that you just don't heal stress with her. Like, she's meant to be like this recovery machine that like, oh yeah, you just sit there and you just press your recovery buttons. But you can't recover like half the damage you are taking, because stress exists. Like, if you run like double like healing triggers on her, sure, you'll be like fine in terms of like HP, maybe. But in terms of like stress, like, you just get slapped in the face. And that's not to mention that like double healing triggers are really ineffective because they have like diminishing returns. So yeah, basically to summarize, you have a hero that has no utility and that does no damage, has like probably the worst stun in the game, has healing that is pretty much just outpaced by like every other hero, and has a niche that doesn't exist. So it's like, what do you want me to say about this hero? Like, there's very, very few other heroes that have like this bad of a time in Darkest Dungeon, because like, she just doesn't do anything compared to others. Like, she just has worse damage and like worse stuns, and her healing is honestly not that impressive compared to like most other heroes. She's not all that. Like, please, if you like play like Vestal on every team, don't. Like, just ignore her. She's very often not like a pick you want to have. There's like maybe like 1 or 2 missions where she's actually good, but those are very rare. And in most cases you can find someone better, and yeah. Vestal, not all that. Basically. But yeah, that was the video. I hope you enjoyed. You probably didn't, especially if you are a Vestal enjoyer, if you are a Vestal spammer, if you are a Vestal over liar, and you end the game with like 15 deaths because Vestal died, like multiple times because you don't have like a secondary healer. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to like yap about me and tell me that Vestal's good actually, and I'm ignoring her best trinket, Sacred Scroll. I love Sacred Scroll. Smile. I love losing my entire kit for upside that I can get with Juna's head. That's fine. But yeah, you can watch me on Twitch because I'm fancy there, and you can like try to argue with me, but I don't think you'll have a point, especially about Vestal. And yeah, hope you enjoyed watching, and goodbye. Smile.